Welcome back to the Black and White Podcast.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Dave. And while I have a substantial amount of comic books in my home, I am no longer a comic book collector.
Why do you say that? You have more than a substantial amount of comic books in your home. Unless you really pare it down, you have a significant collection in your home.
I was, at my height, I was at 36 long boxes and like 2 shelves worth of like 2 6-foot by 4-foot shelves of trade paperbacks, down to 1 shelf and 18 or 19 long boxes.
Oh wow, you really pared down. I didn't know you got rid of that much stuff.
Had a lot of guys from the team.
Yeah, you did. I don't know what kind of contract you took on, but you sliced your team down a lot. How many comics roughly can fit in a long box too?
I think it's like 200-ish with bag and board. I think it's 200, and then it's like 250 with no board.
Okay.
Roughly. And that's from years ago. I don't know if anything's changed because of the thickness of bags and the thickness of comics as they're losing pages. It feels like by the month as we downgrade the paper quality and the number of pages within, I think you probably fit more in a long box today than you could 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, what are we talking about this week?
We're talking about the dangers of collecting comic books.
It seems antithetical to our channel a little bit.
It does. And I think that there's a clear divide between being a collector of comics and an enjoyer of comics. I think I lean more towards enjoyer of comics these days rather than a collector of comics. However, before we get too deep into this, I want to do one thing.
Sure.
And we're going to come back to this at the very end of the podcast. So if you want the answer, you got to listen to the whole thing or watch the whole thing on YouTube. So I did a little research. I did a little research before we started.
Really?
And you can think this over too. So we're going to talk about at the end of this episode. This is by Guinness Book of World Records standards, the largest comic book collection in the world. And if you've got some ideas about, how big it might be, what it might entail, you could, listeners or ruminate on that, think it over. I guarantee it's probably around what you'd expect, I think, if you know the hobby well. But I've got some other interesting little tidbits of information about this collection as well that we'll talk about later.
What is the units of measure on this collection? Is it like square footage of a house, or is it like actual books?
Actual books.
Comic books. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Because I've seen some like YouTube videos of guy, probably the dude with the largest comic book collection and stuff, but like I don't know if it's like a house or actual comic books.
I mean, we'll talk about that a little bit too, but
does this include trade paperbacks, collected editions, or is it
includes it's comic books? Don't overthink it.
Okay, I'm overthinking it. All right, cool.
It's comics.
You know how my brain goes.
I do. So I'm cutting it off at the pass.
So just regular Walking Dead issues, not the digital versions, the compendiums.
This is paper. We're talking about a paper collection.
Regular comic books. Got it.
This man wants to include digital copies in the. What are you? What are you talking about right now? What kind of weird? I mean, I guess I can see that. Like, I guess my digital video games, I would consider those part of my game collection. But I feel like the comic book collection, it's weird to count digital. But I think it probably does count.
Nah.
But not for the Guinness Book of World Records, it doesn't.
Exactly.
They don't consider that to be a thing you can claim.
All right, yeah. All right, I'll keep that in my head. Keep that in mind. Think of a number.
So no, you asked me a question. I didn't answer it. You asked me why I'm not a collector. And I feel like that's probably a really long answer to a short question.
Sure.
And I don't want to pontificate for too long here, and I think you know me well enough to know that I tend to get philosophical about this kind of stuff, probably overly so. But I don't consider myself a collector because I no longer have the desire. We talked about this before in this podcast. I no longer have the desire to like spend hours of my week end or day driving around in comic book shops hunting for a bunch of issues for a series that I just need to complete for the sake of having the complete run in a box in my house. I don't have that passion or fire to go and do that anymore. I'm no longer holding on to things just for the sake of having it so I can say, oh yeah, I have that run of Daredevil, or I have that run of Spawn, or whatever. Like, not something that's bringing me enjoyment or has no sentimental value. I don't need it.
Do you still collect some things though? Like, do you collect like new stuff as it comes out, or will you go back? Like, I know one of a character you really enjoy. I don't know. Yeah, she's one of your favorites, but like Captain Marvel. I know you really like Captain Marvel.
Not one of my favorites. Might be my favorite Marvel character.
You said, all right, so hold up. You said Spider-Man before.
Spider-Man is definitely like all-time like favorite Marvel character, but I think like if we're talking current, like right now, you said like I know you're still getting it. Like, I'm not buying Spider-Man anymore, but I am buying Captain Marvel. I'm not collecting Spider-Man comics anymore. Stories no longer were good. But
I feel like you need to be quality. I feel like there's some shenanigans like the TMNT in the arcade episodes, but that's okay.
Here we go again. Here we go again with the TMNT.
No, we'll go. We'll move forward. Okay.
We're gonna do a TMNT episode just so we can stop talking about this. So I can stop getting raked over the coals for something that happened months ago.
So much disrespect to the Turtles. Okay, so Captain Marvel. Will you go back and collect like previous runs of Captain Marvel, or are you like, nah, I'm good?
Nope. I have her first appearance, and I have Captain Marvel #1, like her first, like her solo series. I have that #1.
The gloves.
That's enough for me. I don't need anything else.
Okay. All right. So do you don't go back and really collect? You will collect moving forward though, because I know like that's one where you were like, man, you can't even take the digital code. This needs to be pristine. Like, you will continue to collect moving forward as of right now.
And until the stories are no longer, if the stories are no longer good, I'll cut bait, man. I'm out. I'll keep what I have.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna just buy it because she's in it.
Got you. Do you get like dissatisfied and get rid of something? Like, if say there was a really bad run, would you be like, all right, I don't need this paper in my life anymore. Like, let me get rid of this because you have Marvel. What I did. You have Marvel Unlimited, so it's like everything is there digitally, so you don't physically need it.
That's not necessarily true, though, is it? Like, it's not all there.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, you want to go back and read the full '90s Ghost Rider run? Too bad. You can read about 30 issues and number 94, the very last one. That's it.
In theory, the newer stuff should be on there.
Yeah, newer stuff. Like there. That's another reason why it's easier to stop collecting, because I can just read it digitally.
So, once again, we love paper, but like, especially after this podcast, going and trying to read at night, it's so much more convenient to just have it on a tablet. It really is.
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. As I've gotten older, and I've sort of cycled through a lot of different hobbies and interests and people and experiences and jobs and whatever. Like, I've experienced life. If something doesn't bring me joy, I just move on from it now. I don't keep things around just because they've always been there or because I've always liked it. No longer a part of my lifestyle, I guess.
So do you I don't say this is like a huge reason why I hold on to things. Do you feel, not even necessarily that you're like going to sell this stuff for money to get rid of it or whatever, do you feel like it's like
the opposite?
Don't bury the lead. Do you feel like you wasted money on that stuff if you just literally take it to half price books and get rid of it, or just gift it away to the Goodwill or something? Do you feel like that was wasted money, or is it more just like this is an entertainment cost for you? Like, it's just like going to the movies or going bowling or so, like something like that. It's just more of a sunk cost.
That's a really good question. And like a lot of things we've talked about here prior, I think it's sort of somewhere in the middle there. It's in the gray. Because for some things, yes.
Take a stance. Take a stand.
I did. I took a stance about 15
Neutrality.
seconds in. About 15 seconds into this episode, I took a very prominent and declarative stance in one direction. However, when we're talking about like getting rid of stuff, sometimes yeah, I feel like I did waste the money. I do. Other times, you know, if it's like a paying it forward situation, like donating it to like a library or something. But guess what? Like even libraries, they don't want that stuff. Like it's harder to donate. Harder to donate. And when you're talking about selling off a collection, I mean, I still have 12 long boxes that I need to unload in my house. They're sitting downstairs. They're not in my comic room anymore. That's another problem. I literally have a comic book room house. That's a problem. I've got 12 long boxes that I've tried now with 2 different shops to like get them to take them off my hands, and I'm not trying to sell for even half cover price. This is like a liquidation sale. Like put it on a pallet and then do whatever you want with it and give me $250 and I'm so happy. Like I just want it gone. Like having the weight of it out of my life is more important to me than getting money back for it.
Recycle it.
Ooh. That made me uncomfortable.
Recycle
Just thinking about taking all those comics and recycling them. No, absolutely not. I think I feel like you just trapped me. I feel like you just trapped me. That was
I hit a nerve.
Well played.
I've done it. There's some stuff that I was just like, I'm not gonna sell. I gave our buddy Sheridan a bunch of stuff, and there was some stuff when I was kind of paring down. It's like, what is this? I just threw it in recycling bin. I felt so much better.
Yeah, there's only one.
It's painful. It's painful to do that. That's literally a waste for me. Like, I'm not giving it to someone and they can even enjoy it. Like, it literally is a waste at that point. I feel like, so I did struggle with that too.
I mean, I've only thrown one comic book in the trash.
The X-Men.
You remember?
I remember.
That's a story for another day, though.
Okay.
I mean, I have done what you said, like sort of giving stuff away. I mean, I gave you a box of DC comics when I moved one time, and then when I moved from Syracuse to Texas, I actually gave quite a few comics to some of my store managers. Actually, when I was a DM at GameStop, you know, they were comic fans like me. I was like, stuff like, take it. Yeah. I don't want to take it to Texas. Like, it's gotta go. So I don't want to throw it away.
I don't know why it's just so hard to get. I do feel like there's a financial aspect that it's just like,
and that's, I think that's our first. This is our first danger of collecting.
Yeah,
and that danger is the emotional attachment you feel to these things.
That's all it is, man. I mean, really, like if you remove yourself and you step away from it, like with it, Ghost Rider and the content that Marvel Unlimited and DC don't want to put on there, you can read everything on these apps electronically. It's more convenient. Not Comixology. It's for the most part, it's more convenient to read it digitally than it is. It's definitely for you to be upstairs to walk down to your basement to pull out an issue. Like, it's way more convenient to read it digitally. So like, why do we do this, and why can't we get rid of things? I can tell you there's certain things that I have gotten rid of that I get back because I cannot cut the emotional cord. So now
I think that's more of just like your personality.
Yeah, it's like
can I
sure.
Can I sigh for just 1 second?
You can cast an aspersion. Absolutely. Go ahead.
So I have personally watched this man flip-flop from PlayStation to Xbox to PlayStation to Xbox. Dude would trade in every single game and the console, and then buy the other console and buy half those same games for the other console, and then reverse the whole thing like a year later. That your personality is to like, it's to like gain and disperse and then like reacquire, and you cycle through that.
So I was about to say this in the there. This isn't a video game thing, but it kind of does say on the channel, video games comics. So I guess you do have me there. I would be in trouble in that console war with Sega and Nintendo. Genesis does Nintendo. I'd be like, man, Nintendo's the best. Genesis does. But Sega's the best. Traded in back. I'm gotten a little bit better.
if you had adult money in the 90s.
Yeah, oh yeah. In my youth, I was very reckless with finances. But okay.
So I just think that might just be like sort of a thing that you do. That's part of your personality. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just what you do. Like who you are.
No,
so
I'm noticing. Go ahead.
No. If you wanted to finish making your point, go ahead. Because I'm gonna.
No, I was just gonna say with you as well too. Like I'm becoming more of a fan of reading. Like I am inherently a reader. I am not a collector per se. I read my comics. Some comic fans will shriek and get upset, but like, I don't really bag and board my I bag them. I do not board my comics. I put 2 comics per bag. The only board
that is lambent behavior.
The only board I put in there is if it's like the number 1 issue or it's something special. Otherwise, I read it. I'm a reader. So, I know that I'm going to probably get rid of it. I know that I'm probably going to get rid of it. So like, there's no point in me buying all these boards that I'm going to get rid of. What's the point? If it's Radiant Black or something I really enjoy, I might bag and board it. But Marvel DC comics, like, who cares, man? It's not that. The one I'm struggling with right now is Immortal Hulk. I haven't read it though. But I'm like, do I really need all these issues?
It's on Unlimited.
It's on Unlimited. Like, I go online, I look at the prices. Like, the prices you're looking at are like near mint prices, which my comics aren't. So, like, they're worthless. So if I might as well get rid of it, I guess. But from what I have read, I have not read the last like 12 issues of that run. But from what I've read, I've really enjoyed it. So it's like, that'll be one I probably do keep. But
I know I sort of reacted harshly initially, but like I'm with you on like not boarding everything. And shout out Lone Star Comics once again. If they didn't ship all my comics bagged and boarded, there'd be a lot more that I don't board too. But they show up with a board. Like I'll just that way.
He ain't dead, but shout out Bodobius, how they used to bag and board everything. I got used to that, but like every other comic shop I've been at outside of the ones in Erie, none of them bag anything.
Yeah.
It's just you get the comics. Like you can't. So I'm like, I'm not bagging and board. I'm not boarding everything. Stupid. All right, you can continue on. Sorry. I got off.
No, you're good. You're good. So I wanted to ask, you're one of the people that buys a lot of variant covers. You'll buy multiples of one comic. You'll buy multiple number ones, multiple whatevers for a variant. Yep. So, I mean, I'll order specific covers if there's like a 4 or 5 cover thing. I'll order the cover that is the one that I mean, like if there's 5 different covers for one issue, I will order the one that is like the most appealing to me artistically, or the artist is the one that I like the most. But I know you're someone that will buy multiple covers of the same issue because they're different. And I feel like that's got to like inflate the collection quite a bit. You're doing that a lot.
Yes. I'll normally get the regular cover, and then if there's a cover, I'm backing away, but Scotty Young, Sheridan's got me on Scotty Young. And
he's a good artist. I like his style.
Dude, that Ghost Rider #1, Scotty Young, is incredible.
Do it.
But yeah, I have recently gotten to the variant game thanks to Sheridan. He's big into it. What I'm noticing for myself now is, as we've kind of like been dialoguing and within the past couple months, I ultimately like to give back to the LCS. I enjoy going to the comic shop. I enjoy talking to my comic shop guy about comic related things. We both have kids, all that, like just life in general. So for me, I guess it's like a paid membership or however you want, a pity pass or whatever. I know, but I do enjoy the comics I read. But for me now, I would rather get one cover I really like. And if it is like an incentive that's more expensive, I would rather buy that one comic book than buy 5 comic books I don't enjoy to have even more paper. I'm I'm getting something I actually like, and I haven't showed you the pictures of my office, but like I hang. For me, displaying comic books is like important. So like some of these variants, I'm alternating variants. I work on a college campus, so there's a lot of students I work with, engineers, and like the kid today we opened my office. He kind of got me after lunch. I opened my office like, hey man, come on in. And like I have all these Frank Cho Avengers like variants that I love. And dude, his eyes just like lit up.
That's
and
awesome.
He's like, he's one of us, you know. And I got my Batman and Superman statue behind me. So like I'm displaying this artwork as well too. And I take things down in my house and I put things up, and I like all, like some people do Christmas decorations. I do kind of the same thing with comics. So for me, displaying and showing it off is another thing. That's also why you can pencil this in with the whole like Matt buying consoles, Xbox and whatever. Like that's part of the reason I got into hardcovers and stuff too, is to like display that on my bookshelf, even though I bought the single issues.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that too.
Those Invincible hardcovers look mighty good on your bookshelf. You know, you have all the issues. Exactly. But like
there's other stuff up there too that's just for the sake of having, like Skyward
sure.
and Saga and The Boys and a bunch of Judge Dredd stuff.
Because you want to show off your fandom. So when someone comes in, or even just to yourself, like I walk in my office, I'm like, yo, that Daredevil Born Again omnibus looks real sweet. And those Uncanny X-Men's look really good. I'm never going to open them. They are literally just on my bookshelf.
I think now, Matt, we have stumbled into danger number 2. And that is, who are we collecting for? We're sitting here talking about buying stuff that we already own, to have it on the shelf to display for other people. Like, yes, it's up because we like it. And I like to walk into my comic room and like see all my trade paperbacks, but we both know, and we've both just now admitted publicly, that it's also cool to have that stuff when someone comes over and sees it, or you have that moment, you know, at your job where a student comes in and sees it and their eyes light up and like, oh, wow, that's so cool. So, you know, I feel like there have been times in my life where I've been like going through like lizard brain completionist, like rabid searching for comics just to tell other people that I have the thing. That sounds insane saying that out loud.
Well, sure, this podcast is therapy. This is what we're doing. I think there's a fundamental difference. I think there's a fundamental difference, though, between you collecting Saga, Invincible, whatever, displaying that up, than like bagging and boarding comics and putting them in your basement. Like that's,
yeah, but like
I think
there was a time where I was doing that.
For sure. Oh yeah, that's not healthy. My variant cover thing that I do.
Rude. Screw you too, man.
Yeah, like my variant. Oh, I've done it too. What are you talking about? My variant cover thing, like when I open my office door, like it legitimately brings me joy. So like seeing that every day, like as stupid as that is.
Yeah, but how many comics is that? Like 15, 20 max?
Yeah.
Like that's not
it's
that
not
big
the whole
of
collection.
that's what I mean. Like,
yeah,
I really think that there are times where like even you and I would feed off each other when going to a con or like shopping at like that $5 place in Grove City, where we're just sort of like buying stuff to like be buying it and like adding it to the collection. Dude, I would just be buying stuff because it's cheap.
No, yeah, but a lot of those Grove City stuff, and we got a lot, like I read that stuff. Like that was how I got in. Was I was buying a lot, but I was reading a lot too. So I don't feel necessarily, I feel worse about purchases now than I do back then, because I had more spare time on my hands back then and I was reading that stuff. I wasn't
sure
we would get to. we would get to a point where there was some unnecessary spending, sure. But like when we first met and we're going, I was reading all that stuff we bought. I read.
You still have it?
At least once. A lot of it I kind of gave away. So I did a pare down. There's definitely some trade. There's stuff I can get. I am guilty. I have trade paperbacks and hardcovers that I could get rid of. Yes. A decent amount too. Right. Yes.
So am I off base in thinking that one of the dangers of collecting is getting so wrapped up in it that you're no longer buying these things solely for your own enjoyment or for yourself, and you're doing it to be able to sort of brag to others about your collection and what you own and what you have and what it's worth and how you got it and how long it took to collect it? Because I feel like I know I fell into that trap for some period of time, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. If I am, maybe some others are realizing they did the same thing too while listening to this. I don't know, but you feel like you've always only collected for yourself. There was never any sort of like, I want to be able to show this thing off type of a thing happening where you're maybe buying stuff that wasn't.
Yeah, but like that, I think we're conflating things now, because like this is the argument of like doing good deeds, and like you should feel good. Like if you gave me something, or you donated money to the homeless shelter or something, like you should feel good. You should not feel guilty about that. You're not walking around like, oh, look at my Invincible collection I got. You've never been like that.
No, I know, but
like, look at this 9.8. I've never heard you ever.
I'm not saying before. It's like that. I'm not saying it's like a peacocking type of scenario. But it's a subtle thing that we don't realize that we're doing.
Okay,
it's a subconscious drive to collect because that's what you do if you're a fan of comics. But you talk about your collection with other people and you want to show it off when someone comes over to your house. Like, hey, I have that. Oh, I have a whole run of that. Just casually in conversation. And at that point, I feel like you are walking a thin line between collecting for yourself and potentially collecting to show off to others. And I think that puts you in a dangerous place.
I don't like the word show off though. Show off is you're collecting once. I think you're collecting.
I'm not saying this is a peacocking scenario where I'm trying to like brag or shame or like rub someone's nose in it.
This is kind of the similar thing about the comic store that I'm talking about. To you is like, that is a piece of community. You're like, oh yeah, you got that. I got that too. Like for me, that's what I see that more of. Because I know dudes that are like, look at my 9.8. Like that's what
I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, for those people.
I'm talking about people that don't collect just for themselves, that want to be able to go and like.
Yes. Oh,
I'm not saying I've done that or I'm doing that.
That's what I thought you were saying.
I have been close to going down that path before, where I've been collecting things, knowing, oh, it'd be so cool to show this to somebody or tell somebody that I own this, and I think that kind of sucks. And I think that's a danger of collecting, because you end up being that guy at a con that is close talking to you about all the stuff he's got and what it's worth and what it's graded, and you're slowly backing away. Can't get further enough away from this guy. He doesn't notice that you're trying to back away, and he keeps getting closer, and you're trapped by some weirdo in public that you don't.
Andy, you're going down a path that I can't follow.
Please never quote the prequel trilogy on this podcast. I don't recognize them as being part of the Star Wars mythos. Okay. That's not true. They are, but they suck. I recognize them as canon, but I don't like them. There are varying degrees of bad.
Agreed.
I'm glad you agree, because I know so many people that disagree and disagree strongly.
Just quick Star Wars tangent. Like, I really like the premise of those movies. The execution was what was poor. Like, the overall story, if it was done better, I think could have been really well done. But what we got was not good. I think
it was poorly planned, poorly written.
Correct.
The age gap between Anakin and Padme is really sus. I really don't.
Gotcha. Okay, back on Close Talking.
Come on, man. She was 18, he was 10. Come on.
Close Talking at the convention guy.
Let's rein it back in.
So let's in.
So in summary, I've already. That's a dangerous
road to go down.
I feel like we've uncovered a couple of dangers of collecting. to tie back to our title here. I've got another in mind. I don't want to jump right to it.
I feel like you should. I don't know. I'm just looking at kind of what I had written.
I mean,
down.
one of the things that we've talked about before we go any further, one of the things we've talked about, and these are your words, not your words. You've said that I have broken the collector mentality, and you have not. What do you mean by that? What exactly do you mean by that?
Damn, Dr. Phil.
Gotta focus a little bit.
I feel like that's just happening with Zoom. I think you are at a point. I'm getting there. I am not fully to the point where you are. You have more openly embraced digital. I read a lot of things digital. Don't get me wrong. My spreadsheet can tell you. You have more openly embraced digital. You will have a pull list of like 5 comics and you don't care. I'm definitely pulling a lot more than that. I definitely pull a lot more than that. Not as bad as it was a couple months ago. But yeah, there's still some things that I do enjoy collecting. I think, like, for example, Sheridan's getting referenced a lot in this episode, but like Sheridan is like a Spider-Man guy. He is an amazing Spider-Man.
Right? He and I bonded over Spider-Man many, many years ago.
And when I say that man is a Spider-Man guy, like, I pre-order books for him up here, so to save him money from my comic shop, because they're so expensive. He gets like everything, but that's like his thing, and that's what he does. So like, I'm not like that. I'm more creative team driven. Like, outside of Daredevil, I pretty much now I'm getting all, like, every Daredevil thing, but Daredevil, honestly, they don't put that much out. So
True.
I sent Dave a picture of like my box of like Spider-Man, who was like, in a year, it was like almost half of a long box, and Daredevil was like 20 books or something.
Because Marvel's straight up like juicing the Spider-Man fan, like 3-4 times a month, whatever. I mean, it was bi-monthly or bi-weekly, twice a month.
So for example, like, we've talked that we're both more readers. For example, like the text, the new thing that's like grinding at me right now is like, I love Chip Zdarsky. Okay. And Chip Zdarsky is going to be on Batman.
I like that.
I'm out of Batman right now.
Not for long.
Am I coming back to Batman?
Yes.
I probably am going to come back to Batman. I know that Batman is probably going to, it's good right now, but at some point, Batman is going to ship twice a month. One of the notes I wrote down was like collecting. First point was, remember when it was 12 issues in an annual?
I sure do.
12 issues, that's no joke, 3 months of Spider-Man. 12 issues, easily. Yeah. They've been shipping 3 or 4 times weekly. So that's the thing.
To be fair, for Spider-Man during those days, he had 4 books. He had amazing, spectacular, web, and just regular Spider-Man.
No, bro, I'm talking about now, though. Like, you had.
I know you are. I'm saying then, when it was 12 in an annual,
you're being
Spider-Man still had 4 monthly comics that came out. You got Spider-Man weekly. It was just 4 different books. Not every comic was doing that, but Spider-Man was guilty of that.
But in theory, did you have to read everything, or was there one coherent storyline? Could you just pick up Amazing and there was a coherent Amazing storyline?
They crossed over fairly frequently. I mean, we could probably do a whole episode on like the way comic crossovers used to function, you know, prior to Marvel sort of shifting the paradigm, when they would do like a summer event and there were like 3-issue, 4-issue minis that tied into the summer event rather than crossing over in the main books themselves. You know, it used to be something crossed over in the main books.
I really wish that DC was on that 3-month time frame and not the 6. I feel like that would be very helpful.
You still haven't answered my question though. Why do you feel like you haven't broken the collector mentality? We've talked about why I have. Why haven't you?
I enjoy going to the comic shop too much. I'd rather buy stuff. I'd rather buy stuff, collect it, and give it away to a kid later down the line or something and read it. I just enjoy that. That's what I enjoy doing, is hanging out at the comic shop for a little bit. Cause like I don't, pandemic wise, we're getting out more, but like during the pandemic, like that was the only socialization that I had. And talking to you is great, but like you're busy too sometimes. So like it's nice to talk to other people about comics, and I like going in and flipping through and seeing, and like even if I'm not necessarily going to buy something, like having the awareness of like what's out there, like, oh, this is a cool indie book. I'll get it digitally when it's like $1.99 an issue. I'll keep that in the back of my mind. So like I enjoy that LCS experience, and see our previous episode why I enjoy that LCS experience more than Dave has. I just lucked and had good experiences at LCSs.
So I'm gonna throw you another tough question here.
I like
Sorry.
this. I like this.
So
I'll
if
try to
you're
answer it and be more direct this time.
if you were collecting
Yep.
with the intent of redistributing later,
Okay.
are you really collecting, or are you just sort of are you fostering these comic books rather than collecting them?
So if I was to throw a number on it, a minimum of 50%, I'm probably fostering. Yes.
A lot's a high number.
It probably is. I'm keeping a lot of my independent stuff right now, but at some point that box is going to get too big, and I'm like, all right, what do I really need? What don't I need? Like, it's sad. I just feel Marvel and DC comics are way more disposable.
Yeah, they are.
I feel like the independent stuff, like even dude, Spawn, that is $2.99. It comes on like cardstock and it's nice paper. Like the Marvel comics are just flimsy as hell. Like you talked
Or
about,
DC.
like,
DC started that
and DC
first.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Now
just
Marvel's
like
doing it.
it's cheap, so it's like you feel like you're not. I'm not trying to sell it, but it's like you feel like a lot of these independent books, it's like a quality paper and it's quality. So like it's probably a little bit difficult for me to part with those things, because it's like I'm getting rid of an actual comic book and not tissue paper like these Marvel and DC books. But yeah, I would say I'm probably doing fostering.
I think it's interesting. The comic book started out on newsprint, full
Crazy.
colors, in corner stores and grocery stores, very disposable things. You didn't save them, you didn't preserve them, you read them, they cost a nickel, you throw them away when you were whatever, cut stuff out of them, roll them up, whatever. I don't know. You didn't treat them well. And then over the years, they've become valuable and collectible as the scarcity of the older comics became known. And the quality of the paper increased, and the quality of the cover material increased, and they got into this sort of premium status. And now that's starting to walk back. Now we're getting cheaper paper with the advent of like the unlimited subscriptions for Marvel and DC and Comixology Unlimited. They're becoming less valuable, at least from, like you said, from the major publishers. And based on what you just said about not keeping a lot of those things permanently and just sort of re-gifting, so to speak, the devaluation of the comic is starting to get closer to how it was when these things first started showing up, in the 1930s and 40s, whatever. I don't know. I should probably know this, but like we've just now talked about how we don't place a ton of value on the modern comic book, and most people don't, for that matter. I think generally people probably feel the same way. I don't know if they have thought about it in depth as we just have, but interesting to think about.
Yeah, it's unfortunately the paper quality is going down. I mean, I could say for them, I don't normally like making blanket statements, but I would say for the most part, quality is down. Quality of art, quality of writing, quality of paper, price is up. I will not be one of those people that always just hate on Marvel or DC and say everything's garbage, because there's not. There's good books there.
Yep.
They're harder to find. Am I willing to wait for them to go on Unlimited? Sure. Chip Zdarsky's Justice League Last Ride, that came out a little bit ago. Excellent book. Couldn't get me to touch the normal Justice League book. Like, there's always going to be stuff that's there. But I feel like this is going to maybe our continuity discussion and all that. Like, you read superhero comics to have that cohesive universe, and when that universe isn't there, they literally are just like nostalgia baiting you at that point. Because like, if I read Spider-Man and Spider-Man's the only good comic, but all the other stuff isn't really connecting and it's not of quality, I might as well read Image books. That's, in my opinion, I might as well just read an independent comic if it's not going to be a cohesive universe.
Those sure don't sound like the words of a collector to me.
Maybe I'm just lazy and I just don't want to get rid of it. Like that. Maybe that's just what it is. Maybe that's just what it is, man. Like I'm just giving you
a hard time, man.
No, but I'm literally going through this exercise now. Like, I went through, like, I have like 4 short boxes or whatever. So I was like, this is getting to be too much. I got to get rid of this. So I was just going through stuff and I'm like, yep, don't care about these, don't care about these, don't care about these. And that trimmed the box out, you know? So I think it's good to do that and get rid of stuff every once in a while. So
you gotta give it a little haircut.
For sure.
And I think that's a pretty good segue into what I would consider to be the third danger of being a collector. And that is the physical weight and space of these things.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Yep. And as someone who has moved now since 2010, so between 2010 and 2020, that's the last time I moved was in 2020. So in 10 years, I moved 5 times to 3 different states. I lived in 4 different states. I moved to 3 different states. Every 2 years, I was moving. I had a comic collection that was 20 plus long boxes at the start and has just grown in size since then. And at the end of the day, one of the things that set me on the path of really turning off the collector switch and starting to remove these things, and it's on my little board behind me, I simply can't carry that weight. I don't want to do it anymore. I have physically carried my comic book collection across state lines so many times. It's tired, man. It hasn't brought me joy. No one's coming over to my house and going, ooh, ah, when they see my collection. And the friends that I have that are into comics, y'all know what I have already. And we talk about comics all the time. And like, it's eventually got to the point where taking up too much space, too heavy, like literally it's too heavy. Something's got to give. And before what gives is my floor and this stuff crashes down into my living room underneath, we had to slim down the collection.
Let me help you carry that burden, brother. Come on over here. No, I think that has a big big aspect to a shift in digital for you. I told my wife, I was just like, I'm not moving again. It's too much stuff. I was like, I'm going to die in this house. If we move again, I'm paying some. I don't care how much it is. I'm not doing it. I refuse.
I did pay movers the last time.
Yeah, it's too much.
And it was still like, they brought all the comics in.
Set.
Yeah, they brought them all upstairs. Set. I still had to set the stuff. I had to still move all those boxes again and stack them and organize them and all this stuff and like take all the trades out of the boxes and put them on the shelf. And dude, the thought of having to pack all that stuff up again makes me want to cry.
Exactly. Like,
it's so hard.
I think if I was to move again, there would definitely be a Facebook post of like getting rid of this stuff. Cause like I got the digital code. I'm good. It's on Unlimited. I'm not moving this stuff. Like
when I started to slim down the collection, one of the things that I was doing, I actually had the Unlimited apps up. Even though I wasn't subscribed to DC Unlimited at the time, I could still see what was on there and I could see what was on Comixology Unlimited. If it was on Unlimited and I wasn't in love with the character and had no sentimental ties to those issues, see ya.
Yep.
They got put in the going pile. Don't need the weight. I don't need the weight. I don't need the mental weight. And I don't need the physical weight.
Yeah. I blame this all on Sheridan because he really got me back in. I was doing digital and I was fine with it. He got me back into the comic shop, so I'm gonna put it on him. I'm gonna blame it on someone else. What do you love?
I just love it. He got you back in. You're like you're Mr. Collector guy again. I just love it.
I'm a minor collector for sure, but I think if push came to shove like that and I have to get rid of something, I absolutely will get rid of it. It's like I'm physically, I'm not going to let comic books physically affect my health. Like I refuse to do that. Like
they physically affected mine, dude. I've definitely thrown my back out more than once trying to carry all that crap.
Exactly.
So, speaking of collections.
Oh yeah, here we go.
What is your what is your guess? How big do you think the world's biggest comic book collection really is? And I'll tell you now, because I don't want you to cheat. I'll tell you now, this is unique comic books. The total number of unique comic books. So if he has doubles of one issue, they did not count that. But like if he has 700 issues of Amazing Spider-Man, if he has 1 through 700, that counts as 700 unique comics.
Dude, I don't even know. Like I would say like probably like 5 million. No,
that's an insane guess. That's an insane person guess. I'll give you some context. So my 18 long boxes is probably around 3,500 comics.
Okay. He's doing everything. So 700,000? I don't know, somewhere around there.
That's also still very, very high.
Really?
Yeah, I think most people probably will estimate this high.
Yeah, I mean that would be like a realistic guess for me. I would be like, oh, like 700,000 because it's like everything.
Yeah. So,
$1, Bob.
Funny that you say that. The man's name is Bob. I'm not going to give his last name, but if you want to find out more about Bob, he's easily Googleable. You can just Google world's biggest comic book collection.
Does he live in here, Pennsylvania?
No, he does not. Not that Bob. So his unique count of comic books. This is the world's largest comic book collection. He has 105,000 unique.
I figured it'd be way more than that.
You would think that.
I'm thinking about all this triple shipping Spider-Man. That's why.
Yeah. I mean, now he keeps his collection. He has a room in his house for like his collectibles.
How
like
big?
he has a bunch of like busts and stuff and like other collectible type things. And like his favorite comics are in the room in his house. The rest of his collection is in his 3-car garage.
Okay, I was gonna say
his collection weighs 8.3 tons. Which is 16,600 pounds. And that, my friends, is why I am not a collector. Because I cannot carry that weight.
You can't even get rid of that collection. There's no, like, you can get rid of key issues, you can get rid of keys, but that's about it. Like, you're not going to get the bulk of that paper, you can't get rid of it. And that was... He actually seems like a really nice dude. Like he's like, yeah, you know, I don't do this for any other reason than I just like comics. He's like, I read about 100 comics a month. I have a regular job that pays all my bills. This is just like my one hobby, and I've put all of my time, energy, and hobby money into this. Like, this is just what I do. People have their things. This is my thing. He started collecting when he was 8. He never looked back. I actually kind of love that for him. I think that's awesome to stick with something that long and be so like fully invested that now he's in the Guinness Book of World Records. I don't know if anybody will ever beat that, given the change in collecting habits and digital shift and all the other things that we've already kind of talked about over various episodes. I think that's really cool for Bob, and you know, I'm stoked for him. And with that, man, I got nothing else to say on this topic. I've said my piece. I think it's time we wrap this one up. I think we should I had something to say, but we should wrap it up. I'm not going to say it. We should wrap it up.
All right. Save it for next time. we talk about this. I'm sure we'll talk about collecting again.
There'll be a part 2 and 3 and 4 and say
yeah. So appreciate everyone's time. If you checked us out, listened, watched, whatever. We also post content on TikTok and YouTube that is not part of the audio pod. So if y'all want to find us there, well, if you watch on YouTube, the YouTube content is on the same channel. On TikTok, we're Black and White Pod. Find us there.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Follow and rate on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. We'd really appreciate that. Hope you all have a great week. We'll do this again in 7 days. Bye.
Peace.